Hey, Matt Scratch here, and today I'm going to be rebuilding this power steering pump for a PT Cruiser. Essentially what I'm going to be doing is installing this Gates power steering repair kit, which is essentially just new seals, and I'm going to be cleaning everything internally, and normally that's all that it really needs. The seals start to leak and it starts to suck air and cavitate, and that's what causes your pump to get noisy on you. So we'll take it apart, but before we get it apart, I've already taken some brake clean and blown off the housing, and now I'm going to just plug off the ports here quick, and then I'm going to clean off the outside of the housing really good here, so that none of the dirt or anything will get in the pump, and also because I want it to be clean as part of the rebuild. I'm just going to soak it down with Varsol, and then just use this to clean it and get any loose debris off the surface. Okay, so now it begins to tear down, and I've got the camera zoomed in on the actual pump, so you won't see my face, but I don't think you need to. Okay, and just make sure that you keep track of where your fasteners are from, because here already we've got different length ones. So I can see that the shorter ones go here and the longer ones go here. So you can see how the pump actually works. It's actually got an oval cavity in there, and then as it spins, those veins pop out and match up to the side of the cavity. You can see there's actually a small snap ring right here. I don't have the right tool for this, but I was able to just get under there like this sorta and pull the ring apart with two picks, and I've got it up here, so there we go. The ring is off. Well, I'm just kind of figuring this out as I go too here. So after you take that snap ring off there, the shaft actually slides out the front, just like that. Guys, well, I've got the pump mostly apart here, and I just wanted to go over a few things. You can see that I wasn't very successful in keeping these the little veins in there as I planned, but that's okay, because when I got this apart, I noticed there is quite a bit of wear on here, so I'd like to polish those parts. I'll just use the Scotch pad to polish all that, and it'll just get rid of those wear patterns on there. I'll also be just running it over all this to clean up the sealing surface and everything. Here's the gasket. It's a steel gasket with the rubber seal on it, and I've got a new one of those I'll be installing, and then I have a new shaft seal. So how I got this seal out, and how I get most seals out, is I have this screwdriver here that I've sort of rounded the edge on it so that it doesn't scar up the edge of the bore. And what I did there is just hit down in one spot on the metal until I've kind of bowed the seal, and what that does is it shrinks the whole circumference of the seal, and then you can very easily pry the other side to seal up. So that's what I did there. When I took this apart, I did not realize that this was separate at first. I didn't look close enough. But it is, and there is a difference. There's a little square hole right here on that piece, and that goes up. So your very best bet would be, if you want to keep those veins in there, slide that up like that off of there while leaving this in here with the veins, and then you could take a zip tie and wrap around there and tighten it to hold the vanes in if you don't want to deal with those. If you do take the vanes out, as I have, you have to be careful because they are not reversible. They only go in one way, and they have a rounded edge and a square edge, and the square edge goes into the notch on this piece, and then the rounded edge is what sticks out and rides in the bore here. So make sure you've got those right. It definitely won't work if you've got one backwards. And then there is also this check valve here, and this is 24 millimeter. So I've already I put it in a vise and broke that loose. That was pretty stuck in there. And then there's going to be some O-rings in here and a spring, and those O-rings are replaced. They're part of the kit. There's a valve in there. I'll see if I can get a pick down inside there. Okay, so that valve came out of there. There's wear marks on there, and so I just want to polish it so those are off. And the same thing with all these vanes. You can see where they've traveled in and out. I don't know if it will show good on camera, but they have some wear on them. So I'm going to be polishing them and replacing them back in there. So what I'm doing right now is just polishing all the wear marks off, and I'm trying to go in the direction of rotation. So on this, I'm just doing circles. When I did the shaft here and the seal rides here, and there was a mark from the seal, so you just go like that. And you just keep going like that until it's all even, and you can't see that mark where the seal was anymore. The same thing here. You just go until you've got a consistent looking surface, until all the wear marks are off, and you're back down to a smooth, even surface. Because if you've got those wear marks there, they're just going to keep getting worse and worse, and then it will start bypassing fluid through there, and it won't pump properly. Okay, so you can see now the surface just looks all one. You can't see those wear marks anymore, so that's good. That's what I'm aiming for. You can see I'm just starting to do this side, and it's still got the wear marks. You can see I've got everything cleaned up now completely. I've actually gone through everything and blown out all these holes and cavities in here really carefully with an air gun, and that gets rid of any fibers that might be in there from your shop towels, from your Scotch pad if you were using one, and any remaining debris that might have been left in the pump as well. So all this stuff got blown out until I was absolutely positive it was all 100% clean. I just wanted to note that these two pieces both have these markings on one side of them only, and those markings go up. It's not on the other side. So make sure you're paying attention for things like that and putting it back exactly the same. I'm sure there's a reason why they have those markings there. And then here's my new seal kit, and basically just slip all the O-rings on. I've got a little Vaseline to use as lubricant. I've also got the correct Mopar power steering fluid to kind of prime the pump as I'm putting it together. And I've got some RTV, just some black RTV, and I like to use that around the outer edge of the seal, the shaft seal, when I put it in, so that you're not getting any possible leaks there. That'll seal it in the bore better. And I looked up torque specs online because there was none in the instructions that came with this, and I couldn't find for the exact pump, but for a similar pump it was around 25 foot-pounds for these bolts here, which is what I figured anyways. So that's what we're gonna do, and this I'll just put that good and tight, and yeah, we'll get that on there and see how it works. So I'm just going to show you how to put this main shaft seal into the pump assembly here. And as I said, I like to use some RTV silicone just around the outer edge of the seal. There is a bit of a rubber thing there to kind of seal it up, but this is a little cheap insurance too. Honda actually does this on all their seals. And I have heard of seals leaking around the outer edge here, so I always do this. I don't put a lot because it will just squeeze out anyway. And just get that on there straight as you can. Try not to get silicone on everything. Okay, and then you can just take a hammer and gently tap the seal down. That's how I'm going to do it. If you have a seal driver, that's even better. But okay, and now we got the seal in there flush, and there's a nice layer of silicone that's oozed up around it, so I know we've got a good seal there. So now we're going to lube that a little bit, and I think we'll just use the power steering fluid to do that. We're going to slide the shaft in here, and we're going to just lube the seal so that it doesn't start dry and burn up the seal lips. There are some seals that you can't, if they're made out of a certain material, you can't lube them. They require starting dry just to break in the seal, and if you lubricate them, they will fail on startup. So make sure you read the instructions that come with whatever seal you're installing. So there we go. The shaft is back in. Okay, so next we're going to place this piece, this outer ring that forms the bore of the pump. We're going to reinstall it, and it just slides down over these dowels like so. And then we can install this, and again you want to have, there's a little square marking here and a little triangular shaped one here, and you want to have those facing up. And then we're going to install all the vanes into it now. We're just going to drop them down, and there's a rounded edge and a square edge, and you want to make sure that you've got the rounded edge pointing out. There's one. And there we go. You can see I've got all the vanes back in. I've got the little markings on the top. I just got to put the snap ring on the shaft. So again, those vanes go with the rounded edge out. Now I'll be priming this with oil before I put it together. I'll just be pouring some oil in here to lubricate all the vanes. So I'm just torquing up these 4 bolts. I've got my torque wrench set at 25 foot-pounds, and I'm going to go in a cross pattern. I'm not going to try and torque one down all at once. I've just gotten all finger tight right now, so. Okay, so I'm just putting the flow valve back in, and if you saw an O-ring on here earlier, that's because I was confused and thought one went there, but it doesn't. So spring goes in first. I think it can go either way up. It's the same on both ends. And then this goes in with this down. There's actually a little screen in here and stuff, so make sure you blow this out really good during the cleaning process. But that goes in like that on top of the spring. You should be able to move it freely in there. Just press it down a few times and make sure. And then there is an O-ring there to seal that in the bore there, so make sure you've got an O-ring on there. Make sure it's lubricated up so that it will go together easily. And then that'll be spring loaded. As you push it down, you'll have to push it in to get the threads started. So I'll do that off camera here. Okay, so here is the old pump off the car. There's the fitting that I made, and what I'm doing right now is I have to remove this drive pulley. And so you need this puller kit. Well, it's puller installer kit, because you'll also need this to put the pulley on the new pump. It's just a press fit on the shaft, and that's why there's a threaded hole in the middle, and that's why there's a bit of a lip here. So here, I'll just show you quickly. I've got that set up on there, and I'm pulling the pulley off. I've got it half off already. And so basically you hold this part with this wrench, and then you'll need a 21mm to turn that nut, and you loosen that nut, and it pulls up on this ring, which is hooked on the pulley, and just pulls it out. The one thing I find, this Astro kit, this outer ring doesn't quite fit tight enough, and I had it before where these started to slip. So what I do now is I wrap a little electrical tape around here. It takes up the gap, and it makes this ring fit snug on there and hold these tight. Okay, so now you can see the setup for pressing the pulley back on. You can see I'm just starting to press on there. And so there's a thrust washer that goes directly on top of the pulley, and then there's a bearing, and then there's this nut that pushes it on it all, and then you have to have this tightened into the center of the shaft, and you hold that with 1/2 inch, and you turn that with the 21mm. It's pretty tight. It's tough going. I've been using this for extra leverage. I've been hooking it onto the 1/2 inch wrench to get some extra leverage on it to hold it. So the pulley is on, and I just wanted to show you, like, when it's fully pressed on, you'll know, because this thrust washer is specially designed to kind of lock on here. It literally can't move right now, and that's because you can see there's a taper on the end of that shaft, and that washer fits tight down on that taper when the pulley is fully seated, and it won't allow it to go any farther. And you'll see on the back side here too how close it is to the pulley. It's like a 1/16 of an inch clearance. So you want to go until it's that far on. It gets really hard pressing at the end, and you keep thinking it must be all the way on, but it isn't. So just keep going until you get that protrusion, and your washer, if you have an Astro kit like mine anyways, should fit tightly on there. So here the pump is completely together. I've even installed the hose on it, and I went ahead and put some RTV around there. It's quite cold out, so I let it cure up in a warm room for a few days. And I put double clamps on there. I know it looks dorky, but I just want to make sure that's all sealed. I've had big problems with this pump sucking air, and that's why I originally made this custom fitting, which really helped the problem. It's to replace this fitting. This is the original fitting that went there, and it has a lot of shortcomings. I made an entire video on that I'll link in the description if you're interested in that. So it has an O-ring there that fits really tight in the bore, and then I put RTV on this face as well, and then That matches up with that face on the pump, and it bolts into there and there. Thanks for watching Matt's Garage. Don't forget to like and subscribe.